Nobody was supposed to care about him. That's the uncomfortable truth. When Shedeur Sanders came off the board in the 5th round, the reaction wasn't outrage or excitement. It was silence. 5th-round quarterbacks aren't future faces of the league. They're camp bodies, insurance policies, names you learn once and forget by October. Especially when they land with a team like the Cleveland Browns, a franchise already swimming in questions and quarterback what-ifs. Nothing about that moment screamed destiny. It barely whispered opportunity. Most expected him to blend into the background, a clipboard holder, a development player, someone you notice only if things go wrong. For weeks, that's exactly what happened. No viral highlights. No next big thing chatter. Just a late-round pick quietly navigating the league, absorbing speed, pressure, and complexity the way most rookies never do. Then the season broke open. Starter Dillon Gabriel went down with an injury, and the Browns were suddenly facing a problem they hadn't planned to solve yet. No easing him in, no soft matchups. Just immediate pressure, scrutiny, and unspoken expectations that nothing remarkable would come from it. The narrative seemed set. 5th-round rookie quarterbacks survive, they don't change a season. But Sanders didn't just survive. He walked straight into meaningful snaps and delivered composure when every eye was on him. Defensive coordinators hunted, teammates watched, analysts anticipated mistakes, and yet he stabilized. No heroics, no forced plays, just steady reads, calm under pressure, and reliability that made coaches take notice. Front offices started paying attention too, because in this league, trust is currency, and Sanders was quietly earning it. That's when the story began to shift. Analysts didn't crown him overnight, but the league started recalibrating. Attention bent toward him in ways draft status and statistics couldn't explain. And what was happening wasn't just football. It was a signal. Relevance now sometimes outranks resume, and the NFL had started rewarding something far more subtle than stats: presence, control, and timing. This was the start of something no one fully expected. And by the time you notice, the quiet rise of a 5th-round rookie is already rewriting the rules. Nobody was supposed to care about Shedeur Sanders. When his name was called in the 5th round, there was no roar, no viral clip, no instant excitement, just silence. 5th-round quarterbacks rarely become faces of the league. They're camp bodies, insurance policies, names you learn once and forget by midseason. Landing with the Cleveland Browns, a team already swimming in quarterback questions, didn't help his case. Nothing about that moment screamed destiny. It barely whispered opportunity. For most observers, Sanders was meant to blend in. A clipboard holder, a development player, someone only mentioned when circumstances went sideways. And for weeks, that's exactly how it looked. No viral throws, no next big thing chatter, no highlight reels lighting up social media. Just a late-round rookie quietly adjusting to the speed, pressure, and complexity of the NFL. A league where one misread can define your career, and where expectations are as thin as air. Then the unexpected happened. Starter Dillon Gabriel went down with an injury late in the season. Suddenly, the Browns faced a hole they hadn't planned to fill this soon. There was no soft landing, no low-stakes games to build confidence. Sanders was thrown directly into high-pressure situations, every snap scrutinized, every decision dissected. Analysts weren't predicting miracles. Teammates weren't expecting leadership. The script everyone assumed would play out was clear. Survive, don't shine, hand the keys back when the starter returns. But Sanders defied that script. He stepped into the lineup calmly, almost invisibly, and handled the chaos with a poise few rookies ever display. Defensive coordinators weren't curious, they were hunting. Teammates watched, front offices observed. And while the world expected mistakes, he delivered consistency. No heroics, no sensational plays, just smart reads, steady decision-making, and control under fire. That kind of composure didn't just keep games afloat, it made coaches and executives pay attention. In a league where reliability is currency, Sanders started quietly earning trust. And then came the subtle shift: attention. Analysts didn't rush to crown him, but the league began recalibrating. Draft status and stats weren't dictating relevance anymore. Presence, timing, and control mattered just as much, and Sanders had all three. What was quietly unfolding wasn't just football, it was a signal. Relevance could now outpace resume. And a 5th-round rookie with no hype and no early fanfare was proving that the NFL's hierarchy might be shifting right under everyone's nose. The moment that changed everything wasn't celebrated with fanfare. It came quietly through an injury. Dillon Gabriel, the Browns' starter, went down late in the season. No drama, no prelude, just a sudden vacuum at the league's most unforgiving position. For most rookies, this is a nightmare scenario, a crash course in pressure, scrutiny, and expectation. For Sanders, it was the door opening, and unlike many in his position, he didn't hesitate. There was no soft landing, no preseason experiment to ease nerves, no favorable matchup to build confidence. Every throw, every read, every decision was magnified. The cameras were rolling, the analysts were observing, and the defensive coordinators weren't curious, they were hunting. The margin for error was non-existent, and the expectation from outsiders was low. No one expected him to dominate. At best, he was supposed to survive. But that's when Sanders began to shift the narrative. He didn't chase highlights. He didn't try to force moments that would catch social media fire. Instead, he played smart. He absorbed pressure with calm, executed reads with precision, and maintained composure in moments that would crush most rookies. Every play reinforced one truth: reliability is currency in the NFL, and Sanders was cashing in. Coaches noticed, front offices noticed. And the league quietly began recalculating what it thought it knew about fifth-round quarterbacks. It wasn't just about football anymore. Every snap, every decision, every sideline adjustment became a signal. Sanders' control under pressure spoke louder than a viral touchdown ever could. He wasn't auditioning for fame, he was answering the unspoken question every team asks when a rookie steps in: can this player handle the chaos when it stops being theoretical? And Sanders didn't just handle it, he stabilized it. That stabilization began to bend the league's attention toward him. Analysts paused mid-segment. Executives leaned in during meetings. Social media chatter, previously minimal, began to swell. The spotlight wasn't forced. It gravitated to him. What unfolded next wasn't hype. It wasn't box scores or highlight reels. It was the subtle, undeniable shift of relevance, a recognition that in the NFL, timing and composure can sometimes matter more than draft status or pedigree. By the time fans were realizing something had changed, Sanders was already in motion. What started as opportunity born from an injury transformed into proof of preparedness. The rookie who should have blended into the background had instead begun to command attention without demanding it. And that quiet, calculated emergence is exactly what makes his rise so uncomfortable for traditionalists. The league isn't just watching him play football, it's watching him redefine what it means to matter. Then came the moment that made the league stop and take notice: the Pro Bowl rollout. And it wasn't the stats that grabbed attention, it was the placement. Sanders, a fifth-round rookie, appeared front and center ahead of MVPs, long-tenured stars, and familiar faces that usually anchor NFL showcases. That wasn't an accident. Every Pro Bowl image, every positioning choice is deliberate. By putting Sanders in the spotlight, the NFL wasn't just showcasing performance, it was signaling cultural relevance. Social media erupted immediately. Analysts paused mid-commentary. Brands quietly recalculated. This wasn't about who threw the most touchdowns, it was about who captured attention, who could cut through the noise without forcing it. Sanders wasn't being framed as the best quarterback in the league. He was being framed as the most relevant in that moment, and relevance is a different kind of currency. What made it even more striking was the execution. Sanders didn't chase the moment. He didn't flood social media with explanations or content. One single image, a composed rookie holding the Hennessy Award on national broadcast, shifted perception faster than any press tour ever could. No helmet, no jersey, no mid-throw highlight, just presence, symbolism, timing. It told fans, executives, and brands everything they needed to know without saying a word. This player understands value, not just performance. That calculated restraint amplified interest. In a league obsessed with saturation, Sanders' silence became leverage. Every glance at his socials, every repost, every subtle nod in media coverage compounded the narrative. Brands don't just want visibility anymore, they want controlled visibility paired with credibility. Sanders delivered it organically, and the market noticed. But the ripple didn't stop there. The league began to quietly rethink the hierarchy of attention. Draft capital no longer guaranteed the spotlight. Longevity didn't ensure relevance. In an era driven by attention economy, Sanders became a case study. Performance opens doors, but composure, timing, and strategic presence decide who walks through them first. By the time the fans noticed, the league, the brands, and even veteran players had already started recalibrating. What looked like a rookie's rise was actually a demonstration of control, insight, and instinctive narrative management. Sanders didn't just enter the conversation. He defined its pace, tone, and focus. And that is what made this Pro Bowl moment more than a selection. It was a statement: the NFL is evolving, and those who understand attention, narrative, and composure will lead the way. What happened off the field was just as important as what happened on it. While Sanders stayed composed in public, his family quietly ran an engine that amplified the moment without oversaturating it. Deion Sanders Jr. didn't blast clips or chase virality. Instead, he curated access, short, clean, intentional glimpses that felt exclusive but never forced. Car rides, quiet pre-event moments, behind-the-scenes conversations, every snippet added context without explaining everything. Fans felt close, brands saw scalability, the league saw someone who could generate attention independently. This was storytelling, not documentation. Most athletes treat content like a megaphone: louder is better. Sanders' team treated it like a narrative, layering moments to build intrigue. Every move reinforced a single truth: this rookie wasn't chasing attention. Attention was quietly moving toward him. That control is rare in the modern NFL, where oversharing is standard and noise often outweighs value. And then there was the timing. The Pro Bowl feature had already drawn eyes, but the family's strategy allowed curiosity to compound. Sanders didn't need to post explanations or justify his spotlight. The silence stretched and the audience leaned in harder. Every glance at a social feed, every article mentioning him without context reinforced momentum. That quiet strategy turned visibility into leverage, a kind of power few rookies ever master. Even veteran executives noticed. Sanders wasn't loud. He didn't demand deals. He simply existed in a space where performance, timing, and control intersected. Brands started paying attention not because of hype but because of strategic scarcity. His image threaded naturally across sports, lifestyle, and culture. It opened doors beyond cleats and jerseys, inviting beverage, apparel, and tech brands to consider alignment. What made it unstoppable was independence. This wasn't a big agency running the play. This was a lean, fast, instinctive operation inside one family. It controlled rhythm, tone, and packing. By doing less publicly, Sanders amplified value privately. Brands couldn't manufacture this kind of attention, they could only respond. And the longer they waited, the more expensive it became. This is the kind of quiet leverage that shifts the league's perception. Veterans, franchises, and sponsors all realize something. A rookie could command attention, build influence, and shape narratives without forcing the spotlight. Sanders didn't just participate in the attention economy, he operated as a self-contained media platform under the NFL umbrella. The old rules were already flipping, and those who understood composure, narrative, and timing were stepping ahead. Then came the moment that added weight no marketing campaign could ever manufacture. Deion Sanders spoke. Up until then, everything surrounding Shedeur had lived in momentum, timing, and strategic visibility. The Pro Bowl nod, the curated content, the quiet attention, it all felt controlled, almost effortless. But when Deion addressed it publicly, the story shifted. It stopped being about branding or hype and became about legacy. Deion didn't celebrate like a proud father cheering for a lucky rookie. He framed it as confirmation, something inevitable, earned, and rare. He placed Shedeur's achievement in the context of experience, grind, and perspective, reminding everyone how long it usually takes to reach that stage. Deion's own Pro Bowl didn't come until his third season, a fact that reframed the narrative. This wasn't favoritism, it wasn't luck. This was something extraordinary happening early, and it wasn't accidental. The way Deion communicated it elevated the conversation. He didn't rely on stats or highlight reels. He used purpose-driven, almost spiritual language, casting this milestone as part of a larger journey, a reflection of discipline, belief, and timing. That instantly gave the moment emotional weight. Fans weren't just watching a rookie succeed, they were witnessing a continuation of a legacy, a story that honored history while forging something new. Shedeur wasn't writing a name, he was building his own. Critics quickly surfaced, as they always do. Skepticism, subtle but persistent, questioned whether the Pro Bowl spotlight was earned or simply optics, fueled by a famous last name. But every question only amplified his visibility. In a league now defined by attention economics, every debate propelled his name further into the conversation. From the outside, it looked like controversy. From the inside, it was proof of concept, a player generating discussion, interest, and engagement without chaos, hype, or overexposure. By combining performance with narrative, Sanders and his family created a rare balance. The rise wasn't loud, it was deliberate. It wasn't about entitlement, it was about timing, preparation, and control. That approach shifted perception not just for fans, but for franchises and brands watching from behind closed doors. Everyone started recalculating. Who else could navigate this new economy, commanding attention while staying composed? This wasn't a peak, it was a foundation. The story was bigger than football, bigger than a single rookie season. It was a blueprint for the modern NFL athlete, one who understands narrative, timing, and influence, and uses them as strategically as any play on the field. Shedeur Sanders wasn't just emerging, he was redefining how attention, power, and legacy intersect in the league. As Sanders' rise unfolded, the ripple effects reached far beyond the field. Behind closed doors, industry insiders and brand executives were taking notes and recalculating fast. This wasn't just about a rookie outperforming expectations, it was about a new metric entirely: attention. In a league where eyeballs often outweigh stats, Sanders was proving the rules had changed. Brands didn't ask how many touchdowns he threw. They measured cultural pull, digital relevance, and organic buzz. Every subtle move, an Instagram post, a Pro Bowl feature, a quiet media appearance was scrutinized for how it compounded visibility. The family-run content engine amplified this without chaos, demonstrating an athlete could generate sustained engagement without oversaturation. That control created leverage. Legacy brands, used to dictating terms, suddenly found themselves in a bidding war they hadn't anticipated. The stakes were delicate. Move too early and you risk locking in potential rather than proof. Move too late and you face a polished asset that can dictate its own terms. Sanders was in that dangerous middle ground. Momentum was obvious, but the ceiling remained sky-high. Brands realized they couldn't force exposure if it already existed. They had to offer alignment, collaboration, and long-term equity. Every hesitation increased cost, and urgency quietly grew across executive offices. Meanwhile, teams started noticing the same patterns. The NFL isn't just a game of wins and losses anymore. It's a game of perception, influence, and marketable presence. Sanders had emerged as a model for the modern athlete, one who could command attention, generate discussion, and elevate narratives without scandal or noise. That's rare in a league where rookies typically blend into the background until opportunity forces them forward. Skeptics remained, questioning the pace of his rise or framing it as optics over merit. But in the new attention-driven system, skepticism was fuel, not friction. Every debate, every raised eyebrow propelled Sanders further into conversations both public and private. He wasn't chasing relevance, relevance was chasing him. This is where the NFL, brands, and fans collectively realized something crucial. The blueprint had flipped. Performance was no longer the first variable, attention and narrative were. Sanders didn't just benefit from this shift, he anticipated it. And in doing so, he set a new standard for how athletes could leverage visibility, timing, and composure into influence. What looked like a Pro Bowl moment was quietly transforming the industry. The rookie wasn't merely participating, he was signaling a structural change in the league, one where the ability to capture attention responsibly could be just as valuable as skill on the field. For teams, brands, and competitors, the question became urgent. Who else could navigate this new economy before the door closed? Sanders didn't just win attention, he controlled it. While other rookies flooded social media with highlights, reactions, and endless commentary, he chose restraint. Every post, every appearance, every public moment was measured. This wasn't indecision, it was strategy. By letting others fill the gaps, Sanders made the world lean in harder. Silence became a tool, not a limitation. Behind that quiet exterior, a deliberate ecosystem was at work. Family, media advisors, and inner circle collaborators ensured that every clip, every image, every shared moment had purpose. Nothing felt forced, nothing overexposed. Car rides, candid conversations, pre-event routines, they were small windows curated to hint at depth without exhausting curiosity. Fans felt included, brands saw scalability, the league saw independence. Sanders didn't need validation because he had already built it into the system. That independence is leverage. In a market where visibility is currency, controlling the narrative gives power before a single contract is signed. Brands scrambling to catch up realize they can't manufacture scarcity or authenticity. They can only align with it. Sanders' presence, minimal yet undeniable, forced conversations that weren't about raw stats or highlight reels. They were about influence, potential, and the ability to own the moment. And the timing couldn't have been better. His Pro Bowl spotlight, carefully orchestrated yet understated, overlapped perfectly with the growing digital attention economy. As discussions online compounded, Sanders remained composed, allowing the narrative to expand organically. Each new interaction, each debate, each mention elevated his market value quietly but decisively. Skeptics fueled momentum without realizing it, amplifying the perception that Sanders wasn't just a player, he was a phenomenon in slow motion. This wasn't luck, it was preparation meeting opportunity, combined with an instinctive understanding of modern media and fan behavior. The rookie didn't chase influence, he positioned himself to receive it. By walking the line between visibility and mystery, he created a dynamic where every move mattered more than the last, and where restraint amplified reach. For the NFL, brands, and fellow athletes, the lesson is clear. Attention is no longer incidental. It can be cultivated, managed, and leveraged, creating a new hierarchy that rivals traditional performance metrics. Sanders isn't just a case study in rookie poise, he's a blueprint for the modern athlete economy. The broader impact is already visible. Players who understand timing, digital fluency, and narrative control can accelerate influence faster than ever before. Those who don't risk remaining productive yet invisible. Sanders' rise isn't just a story about one quarterback, it's a preview of the power shift that's quietly reshaping the league, proving that in today's NFL, control over your story can matter as much as control over the field. By the time the season ended, one thing was clear. Shedeur Sanders didn't just arrive, he reshaped expectations. What looked like a quiet rookie story was actually a calculated orchestration of timing, opportunity, and awareness. Every throw, every glance, every measured public moment added layers to a narrative that extended far beyond the field. The rookie didn't just step in, he shifted the entire conversation about what it means to matter in today's NFL. This isn't about stats alone. It's about understanding influence, attention, and narrative as currencies equal to performance. Sanders showed that being first isn't always about draft order. It's about knowing how the system works and moving ahead while others follow the traditional playbook. Fifth-round picks aren't supposed to dominate attention, Pro Bowl spotlights aren't meant for rookies, and silence isn't supposed to outperform saturation. But Sanders proved all of that can be rewritten. The ripple effects are already happening. Brands are watching, executives are recalculating, and fellow players are paying attention. The NFL, a league built on hierarchies of experience and legacy, is learning that cultural relevance now sometimes outweighs tenure. A single image, a few calculated appearances, and carefully curated restraint can be more powerful than a season of highlight reels. Sanders didn't force attention, he positioned himself to receive it, and that subtlety is what makes his rise uncomfortable for traditionalists. What's most remarkable is how the story reframes opportunity itself. Doors in the NFL open less for those with the biggest stats and more for those who recognize when and how to step through them. Sanders didn't wait for the perfect scenario. He walked into chaos, performed, and let his presence ripple across every layer of the league: fans, analysts, brands, and peers. That ripple, measured and controlled, created leverage few rookies can ever hope to achieve. So the question isn't whether Sanders will succeed, it's whether the rest of the league is ready. The game isn't changing tomorrow, it's changing today in real time. Athletes who understand narrative, digital fluency, and strategic restraint will rise faster than those who rely on tradition. Performance matters, but influence now moves markets, shapes brands, and rewrites legacies. Shedeur Sanders didn't stumble into relevance. He engineered it quietly, methodically, and flawlessly. And as the NFL adjusts, one truth stands: the rules aren't broken, they've just been understood differently. In a world where silence can amplify louder than noise, where presence outweighs exposure, and where narrative can precede achievement, Sanders isn't just a rookie quarterback, he's a blueprint for the next generation of athletes. The league may never be the same, and the only real question left: how many others will figure it out before it's too late?